Hello, everyone. I'm Ben Stemrick, and welcome to the follow-up question where we break down what's going on at Allentown City Council meetings. Now, this week's meeting was the third special meeting regarding American Rescue Plan funding. Now, this meeting, we heard more expert opinion on the houseless community. Originally, we were also going to hear about capital projects, but that was postponed. Now, this meeting took place on June 22nd and was just over 45 minutes. It started with David Foster of Community Solutions. That's a nonprofit aimed at supporting the houseless. Take a listen.
First of all, investing in that infrastructure that I mentioned. These are long-term investments that are going to yield net positive results over time. Those are, think about those as capital investments as you're building out the systems and the data and the personnel and the infrastructure to make that happen. Two is to think about investments directly in permanent housing outside of the low-income housing tax credit. I would urge you to resist that approach. In Santa Fe, for example, we worked with the City Council in Santa Fe to purchase a motel, 123 units, and we were able to take ARPA dollars from the city, invest them on the city's behalf in the project, and use the return that was generated by those dollars to help subsidize services on site. But in addition to that, thinking about ways to invest in housing navigation, landlord mitigation funds is another example. If you're trying to get more landlords to be able to house the folks who need to be housed, creating basically an insurance program to help cover the first amount of cost, to cover down payments or deposits, thinking about other placement resources to incentivize landlords and property owners to make their properties available, to know that they're available, and to connect them to those who need to get housed.
After Foster, Bob Nicolella of the Catholic Charities spoke. He says roughly 1,400 people experience homelessness in Allentown each year.
You have 63% of all homelessness in the Lehigh Valley is in Allentown. That's a staggering number when you start thinking about the number of individuals and households. In April 2022, which is the latest data that I can currently find, there was 356 individuals on the 201 coordinated entry waiting list. And that is a specific database that is being used by a number of agencies throughout the Lehigh Valley.
Then Sherry Brokop Binder, executive director of Ripple Community, Inc., a socially driven nonprofit, spoke to how children are being affected by Allentown's affordable housing market.
We've been doing quite a bit of work lately with the Lehigh County Office of Children and Youth. And what they're experiencing in their program is that they have families where they're having to take the children into care, not because they're being abused or neglected, but because there's some sort of housing issue that family cannot be housed properly. So children are being taken into foster care for housing issues. On the other end of that spectrum, they have families who have gone through all of the steps, they've done all of the work that they need to do in order to be reunited, in order to be reunified with their children. And they're not able to do that because they cannot find housing that is appropriate for that family. So it's very much a family issue.
Now, a lot of what we heard at the special meeting came back to the point that more supportive and affordable permanent housing should be a priority because it allows for other people to more easily flow through the system and prevent it from bogging down. Now, after the meeting, I had a chance to talk with Councilmember Natalie Santos about some of the things we heard tonight, as well as her recent appointment to the city's Youth Council. Santos was elected in 2021 when she was just 21 years old. Take a look. Okay, Natalie, again, thank you for giving me some time tonight. I greatly appreciate it. Tonight's meeting went pretty quick. It felt like some experts got up and spoke to homelessness here in Allentown. Why don't you just start with tell me a little bit about some of the things that you heard tonight when listening to those experts?
Right. So basically, the biggest concerns that we have here in Allentown are affordable housing and working with the landlords that are currently existing so we can create more opportunities for those tenants that are trying to get in. Not only that, but the biggest theme that also came out was that people are not only on waiting lists to get into shelters, but when they do get into shelters, they kind of get stuck in the middle of the system since they're not able to move on to the next phase, which would be going to permanent housing. So we definitely have a housing crisis in general, not only in Allentown, but in the country. So we should start somewhere, and I think that affordable housing is one of the biggest topics.
At the end, we talked a little bit about landlords and the relationship, the landlord-tenant relationship. That has come up several times now, whether it's the houseless community, affordable housing, when we've talked about this ARPA funding. That seems to be the kind of linchpin to all this being realistic. At least that's the way it feels. Is that the sense that you're getting? And do you have hope that those two communities are going to come together?
Yes, I really do. As a lot of people may know, we have kind of like a I guess what you would call like a slumlord problem where, we'll have landlords that don't really take care of their property here in Allentown. So hopefully connecting the city with those landlords so that they can, actually take care of their properties and their tenants, it would be a huge step in creating more stable housing.
Last meeting, you were put on the youth council. You replaced Councilman Daryl Hendricks. Why don't you start by telling me a little bit about what that is? I know we've heard about it recently, more in the past few years, with the numbers of people on it changing, the ages of the people on it. Why don't you just tell us a little bit about the youth council and what are you guys?
So the youth council is basically our council of youths, which is 21 and under, I believe our age requirement is. And basically, we get input from our elected members. Right now, we only have 3 elected youth members, and I believe they're all under the age of 19. So we basically get input from them on on certain issues. So, how would certain bills affect the youth, or how would this certain project affect the youth? And um, basically what we want to do is create more of a connection between the youth council and city council so that they can put more inputs onto what kinds of things are being passed. So hopefully after we get our chairman and our bylaws reinstated, then we can create that more stable connection between council and the youth council.
Have you got a chance to sit down with those three young members yet?
I have had a chance. I've met 2 of them. I haven't met one of the elected members, but there are other members that are non-voting members that they come and they are as young as middle school age, and they're all amazing kids. They're all so smart and so willing to provide input, which is amazing. So it's a really nice little group. We have about, I believe, 12 like consistent members that come to our meetings. So and these are unofficial meetings that we're having right now, since we haven't had our chairman instated yet. So to get all of our official needs in order so that we can start having the official meetings.
We sit through the city council members. We hear what council feels of the issues, the citizens who come up and speak. We hear from them. What is it that the middle schoolers and the younger people, what do they see as the issues here in the city?
I believe one of the biggest issues that they have mentioned is safety, especially with the recent shootings and the ones that continue to have the biggest concerns is safety and just feeling safe, not only in school, but after school, like on the walk home, things like having programs after school that kids can go to that, feed the kids while their parents are at work. Things of that nature is one of the biggest concerns that they also have.
What are some? I imagine they have a very different perspective when it comes to school safety. Have you had time to sit down with and get in depth with that? If so, what are some of the things that they're suggesting?
Not yet. We have not gone in depth yet. Right now we're just trying to like get our logos together, get more non-voting members to get them more involved and things of that nature. But as soon as we get everything in order, then we'll start going more in depth with these things.
Okay, before I let you go, is there anything else that you feel we really need to touch on or is important?
Going to be a huge influence because when we see that people care enough, to show up and to state their piece, that just shows, that this is a very important thing. People have their own lives going on, especially people from the nonprofit sector. They're doing so many things at once. So for them to take the time to come over here and, give us their presentation or to just make a public comment, it means a lot. And personally, I always take the public comments into huge consideration, because they take time out of their day to come out of here, and they know what they're talking about. So I always take it into consideration.
Okay. Well, thank you, Natalie. I appreciate your time. Now that's going to do it for this episode of the follow-up question. If you want to find out more about the Youth Council, you can contact Council Member Santos. When it comes to ARPA funding, if you want your voice heard, you can speak at the meetings or submit an e-comment online at the city website, where you can also watch past and live meetings. Now, Council is off for a few weeks, which means so are we. The next meeting is set for July 13th, and it will be another special meeting regarding ARPA funding. I'm Ben Stemrick. Thanks for paying attention.